we're moving on to the arms. Okay, the arms give us a couple of really cool opportunities to talk about some very basic drawing principles. Here's one. Okay, there's a cylinder. Modifying the cylinder. Here's a modification of this cylinder. Notice how I'm going to cut across this section. And I'm going to take that line and I'm going to bring it back down here. So that is the shape of the tricep, and this is the shape of the we can use that as the shape of the upper arm, but it's also just a modified shape. So let's take that modified shape and see if we see how well we can see what we can do with just a modified shape. Okay, I'm taking this shape and I'm going to take the bottom and I say that's the bottom of it, and I'm going to have the bottom go over there. Okay, so I'm going to cut off a section right like that, and then I need this little cross piece, so there's that little cross piece right there, and now I'm going to cut down to there on two sides. I'm going to take this and I'm going to curl up and curl up. Now this is the shape. Tricky, right? So let's look at it another way. There's a kind of easy way to look at it. We can see really well what it wants to be. And if we do a clear drawing, then you can see the inside would be going about like that. So we're trying to make a really good diagram. You know, if this is a shape that we're interested in, and it would be really nice to have things like these lines be super clean. And what do I need to practice to get that particular line clean? What's happening there is there's a point and a point. That's this point and this point, and a turnaround up here. So it's going something like that, but it would be really nice to be able to be limber in that turnaround. Everything that you've seen me doing, I've had a real air of real kind of timid, searching quality. So I'm starting to get a little better at this space right here. Here I want to fill in, I'll darken in the space that I'm trying to practice. And then can I take that and turn it in space? Like for instance, if I'm looking at it, does it just look straight like that? If I turn it this way, can I turn it like that? Could I take it, and what if I conceived of it as a kind of a ghost? If I just thought, oh, there's a little ghost, and I'm going to try to take a little ghost structure and play with it in space. So it's the sort of rhyming quality of shapes that opens up a pathway towards style, as well as comfort. Okay, so there's one shape that we're working on. Now that I've been practicing that, we've obviously been practicing the cylinder most of the semester. Let's see what we can do Okay, so here's my cylinder, and I'm going to do the little ghost shape right here. Oh, I like that one. I'm adding a little crossover like I do with the infinity on that one. This one might be a key to this shape, where if you take it and curl around, does that have a good effect? Doesn't seem quite truthful. It seems like I'm trying really hard to be stylish, because I think what happens on this curve that's kind of interesting is I think that its shape is like that. It's this part here that becomes difficult. Okay, so that's one principle that's one shape that we can practice, and it has other uses other than anatomical uses. Um, it's an interesting construction. This shape is interesting, this shape is interesting, that shape is interesting. I mean, for instance, what if that shape faced upwards? We don't want to cut it like that, but let's say I cut it like this. You know what it would be a cool design for? It would be a cool design for a speaker. Okay. And the whole time that we're practicing, we're looking to increase our line quality. We're looking to manage our symmetry better. We're looking to work more fluidly, work more loosely. Okay? Okay. So that shape. All right, another shape, another thing that happens that's really cool on the arm is this. You get these overlaps. So you get these chunks like this. We're just going to take a chunk, and I'm going to overlap it. I'm going to overlap another chunk, and I'm going to put a little shadow right here to show my overlap, and I could do another one like this. Sorry. And this is a constant thing that happens in graphics. Look at, if I make the shadow a little further, a little bigger, it makes it feel further away. But this is a constant thing that happens in graphics. You're looking to build overlaps, and it's a great little exercise. just take a shape, overlap another one, and put a shadow where you see the overlap. And it's a great tool for developing distance, for developing a sense of space. Okay. Another tool that we have that we'll be taking use of is a tool that for lack of a better word, I'm just going to call it an accordion type thing, where we go like this. And on the accordion, notice how these end up staying in perspective with one another. That's the sort of a special skill that you'll practice when you're practicing an accordion. And you can imagine a lot of different uses for an accordion, I'm sure. For instance, a staircase. But it'll be fun to show you how this applies to the arm. And it almost looks like if you've ever been to a kind of a trade show or something, a divider, like a room divider, or it looks like the way that you would stack cards in you might, if you were playing a game with someone where you were stacking cards on a table. But what we're doing is we're accordioning the shape. And for those of you in the class that are looking to become designers, graphic designers or illustrators, a tool like this, or sculptors, a tool like this, an accordion tool, has so many uses. Like, let's say, for instance, we had decided, well, you could take this shape and watch, we could cut it. And now look I'll take this off. And at this point we have a really complicated form, a really interesting and complicated form that essentially emerged directly out of that. Kind of poor line quality, but it's okay. This would become more impressive if we lit it. You know, we could just take a light and shine it over this way, which would make it so that this side of every shape was in shadow, that side would be in light. And this enhances the quality of our diagram. The clarity goes up. And it's a really fun little shape, right? You can imagine, be like some little kid's dream of an accordion space, some strange landscape put on paper. Anyway, I'm having fun. Okay, so the accordion, so moving along from the accordion, okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is an insertion. And it's really related to this. The method of insertion that we're going to work with is going to go, it's going to go like this. Like you'll have a shape and a shape. and we're going to put another shape and another shape, and we're going to put a shape over here. And it doesn't matter how we do it, but what we're looking for is we're looking to create a sense that this shape is inserted between two shapes. So if we overlap with that, with our shadow, and the way that I'll clearly demarcate the overlapping is by having a clean corner here, so you can see that a shadow is being cast on there. And now here's a distance in here. And the idea is that this shape here has inserted itself into there. And that can become really intricate and interesting. Like, for instance, let's say that the shape that we're going to work on inserting is cylindrical. So if we have this shape, a cylindrical shape, and that one is going to get inserted. And so we take another shape and we overlap it like this. Now the shadow that falls on that shape will tell us a lot. And remember, in class we're doing those clear drawings? So that's just, that you wouldn't see. I want to take this guy over here and accordion it around. See how I just did the accordion? I'm just turning a corner with it. Boom. Okay. And now we need an underplane this way. And now this guy will be having a shadow on there. And if I disappear the clarity, so we can see that this shape has been inserted into this larger shape. Okay, so those are our basic principles that we're going to attack the arm with. And now let's go kind of straight to it. And I'll reinforce this in class, but let's see what we can get going. So starting with moving out from the chest, let's start with a really basic figure sketch. Okay. And my hope is that these little figures that you've been making throughout the semester are starting to be more fun and more stylish and more interesting. That the shapes, based on the study of shapes that we've been in, that the shapes are becoming just more fun. Okay, so I'm going to do this. The chest and scapula we've talked about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to act like these guys are something like this. I'll show you from the side. I'm going to act like they're a little bit of, imagine them as kind of like little house roofs, a little accordion shape. So this here is this plane, okay? And this is the plane that's on the back. So there's a plane on the back that goes like that. Here I'm going to do a clear drawing of this, okay? So you're going to see this like this, and then I'm accordioning around to the back, and here's it on the back. And I'll make it a clear drawing. Here's it. It's a clear drawing. So you can see through the structures so that we can just talk structure here. So we've got these two little kind of, oh, you know what it's a good idea for that shape? Like if you think of it almost like a tent out of an old movie where you've got this piece of fabric and it's hanging like that by on two trees. So it's two of those, 1, 2. And the shapes of the scapula and the shapes of the pectoralis can be cut out of that the way that but for today, we don't really need to. So the first thing that we're going to do is we'll consider the upper arm a cylinder that relates to, I'll show you the relationship to that part. So the relationship to this is going to be one of insertion. So what we're looking for is this wants to overlap that side, and this wants to overlap the far side. Okay, so this guy stretches over here and it overlaps. And this guy here, it stretches over too, but we won't really see it. It stretches over and it overlaps. So here, this front plane stretches over and overlaps. So this starts to feel inserted. Now, there's a muscle right here. You can think of it like it comes out. It has, this is an exaggeration of its presence. That's like someone wearing shoulder pads. And what I'd like for you to think about it as, you see, it's going to connect along the top edge of the scapula and to the clavicle. So it connects on the top edge of this guy. And I'd like for you to kind of think of it as almost like a heart shape. And the heart is one of those shapes that we should be able to draw with the kind of fluidity that we draw the first letter of our name. So this here, so it's kind of a heart shape, but I'm going to take that heart shape and augment it a little bit. So what's going to happen is the insides of it are going to become kind of long and straight, and it's going to be a little more like that. Okay? It's a little more of a, it's a cool shape. I mean, I like that. I think that makes it, it almost looks like a flame shape, or I don't know, it's a cool shape. It's like a teardrop that you take a little triangle out of. And I have to say, I am impressed by the dynamics of that shape. Like that's a fun shape to include in your repertoire and in your style language. And what happens is this and this connect to here, and this little guy connects out here. So you've got the back side, it comes forward and it connects down to here, and the front side, it comes forward and it connects down to there. And that's the representation of the deltoid that we're going to work with for right now. So I just overlapped this here. This guy, remember our series of overlaps? This guy overlaps there. This guy overlaps here. Okay, so this guy overlaps here. There's one overlap. And that's, you see the shadow of that on this, which will be the pectoralis. Right there, so you see, there's the shadow of it. So that's front side shoulder. Now let's talk about back side shoulder. Going to start out again with this shape, but this time there's a bunch more space in between them, okay? And accordion around. And this time I'm going to be contented with knowing, look at, I'll do a clear drawing so you can kind of see the other side. There's the other side. But you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you. So that's the pectoralis up in the front. And this is the scapula in the back. Okay? But that keeps that cool structural feeling in our drawings. And if you wanted, you remember the way that we cut that one accordion? Well, you could cut this accordion like this, and that gives you a real sense of the scapula. Although, we'll be okay without that too. Then we've got that cylinder. Now, what happens here is that this part comes up, and we have the top, we've got that heart shape, which will come over and connect to right there. Okay, and you can see its connection line right there. And I'm exaggerating the scale of it. Like, for instance, we'll make this side like a big old muscle man, okay, and we'll make this side a feminine. So the deltoid is still there, but it's a much more subtle shape. And it's that heart shape, and it comes around and into there. And the other side of it we're just not seeing. The other side of it would be connecting to the clavicle. And it overlaps this guy and connects here. And like the pectoralis muscles on the back, there are this whole set of muscles right here. They're the teres muscles, and they come in this way. And they connect underneath the deltoid. So the deltoid overlaps them. And if you want to really have a kind of strong effect, what you could do is you could just draw, like, see how I'm cut down across contour from my shadow there? And then on the back side, so this is probably good, but on the back side, there's another muscle that goes underneath. It's right in here, and it goes under, like this. And you would see the shadow of the humerus. You would see the shadow of this part of the arm on that. It goes underneath, okay? Kind of holds that. And this is the backside of our shoulder. So we've got this one muscle that comes over and goes under, right there, and we'll see a little shadow from that. And we've got this whole set of muscles that goes over. And I'm not shaping them perfectly. I'm just doing that overlap thing. Boom, boom. And here, the overlap of this shows up on there. So that gives us, and now this you won't see anymore. It's underneath all of this stuff, okay? And you've got your trapezius going up here, and you know it splits in two, and it lives in here. Remove that. It lives in here like this. Okay, I think the last piece that I'm going to suggest, but we're going to deal with it, and we're going to deal with it on Friday's lesson, is that this shape here, that gets this. So this part bulges out. That's the tricep, and this part here. But that's going to go into working on the forearm. So we'll deal with the tricep and the bicep and the forearm in a later lecture. But for anybody that's curious why I introduced that whole shape, and here you would see it like this. And that gives you your tricep. All right, guys, I will see you in class.